Hi, I'm Leah, 17, and the night my brother died, he called me 16 times. I didn't answer once. I was too busy pretending my life was normal. 3 months ago, my brother Tyler's car was found wrapped around a telephone pole on the edge of Route 17. The police said he must have lost control around 2 a.m. Wet road, high speed, instant death. But the thing is, Tyler didn't drink. He didn't even drive that road at night because it freaked him out after his best friend hit a deer there last year. When they showed me his phone the next morning, I counted 16 missed calls. All from him. The last one came in at 2:07 a.m., exactly 7 minutes before the crash report. Mom blamed herself, of course. She always does. Dad didn't say much, just sat in the dark living room with the TV on mute for days. But something about the official story felt off from the start. 2 weeks after the funeral, I was cleaning out Tyler's room when I found his old camera, one of those chunky handheld camcorders he used to film everything on. Inside was a memory card. I plugged it into my laptop expecting skate videos or dumb pranks. Instead, the last file was dated the night he died. The video started with Tyler in his car, dashboard light casting weird shadows across his face. He looked scared, actually scared. "If anything happens to me," he said, "don't believe what they tell you. It's not an accident. It's Dad." I froze. Then the sound of pounding on his window. A deep voice. "Give me the drive, Tyler." And the screen went black. That's when I realized something terrifying. My dad wasn't in bed when the cops came that night. He was out for a drive. After that night, I couldn't look at Dad without hearing Tyler's voice. "It's Dad. But accusing your father of murder isn't something you just do. Especially when everyone's already barely holding it together." Mom spent her nights at the kitchen table, staring at a half-finished crossword. Dad pretended to be busy fixing things, doors that didn't squeak, lights that didn't flicker, even the garage sink he'd already repaired twice. Every time I tried to ask where he was that night, his answers changed. "I went for gas. I couldn't sleep." "You must be misremembering." I started checking the garage every day after school. The air smelled like motor oil and something sharp, chemical. In the corner, under a tarp, sat the car Dad used the night Tyler died, our silver Civic. The front bumper had a new dent, just big enough to notice. One afternoon, while Dad was at work, I opened the trunk. There was an oily rag, a flashlight, and an evidence bag, an actual police evidence bag with my brother's initials written in Sharpie. Inside, a small USB drive. My hands shook as I plugged it into my laptop upstairs. The folder opened to one file. Footage_17B. The videos showed Tyler sneaking through our garage, holding the same camera I'd found. He whispered, "He's meeting someone tonight. I think it's about the money." Then headlights flashed through the window, and Tyler ducked. The last frame was Dad's voice from off-screen. "You shouldn't be here, kid." The clip ended. I pulled out the USB so fast I almost snapped it. My heart was pounding in my ears. That night at dinner, Dad smiled at me across the table like nothing had changed. Then he said, "Leah, you've been quiet lately. You know you can tell me anything, right?" And I realized I wasn't the only one who knew about the video. He was testing me. That night I barely slept. Every sound in the house made me jump. The fridge hum. The floor creak. Even the wind. I kept seeing Tyler's face on that video, the panic in his eyes before the screen went black. By morning I decided I needed proof before I went to anyone. So after school, I biked to the edge of Route 17, where his crash happened. The road was still scarred, black marks cutting across the asphalt like burn wounds. Someone had left flowers and a photo taped to the guardrail. When I crouched down to pick up the frame, I saw it, small shards of shattered plastic in the dirt, pale gray, about the size of a fingernail. I pocketed them before anyone noticed. At home, I matched one of the shards to the cracked taillight on Dad's car. It fit perfectly. I took pictures, timestamped everything, then hid the USB drive under the loose floorboard in my room. I planned to bring it to the police the next morning. But when I got home from school the next day, the floorboard was pried open. The USB was gone. My stomach dropped. I went straight to the kitchen. Dad was standing at the sink, drying his hands with a towel. "You've been snooping," he said, like it was a fact, not a question. My throat went dry. "I don't know what you mean." He smiled, slow and cold. "You always were a terrible liar. Just like your brother." He took a step toward me, and I backed up until my hip hit the counter. His eyes looked hollow, black in the kitchen light. "You think you know what happened," he said softly. "But you don't. Tyler made a mistake. He wasn't supposed to." The front door opened. Mom's voice cut through, calling for us. Dad froze, then smiled again like nothing had happened. "Dinner's almost ready," he said. And just like that, he walked past me, leaving me shaking, my heart slamming against my ribs. That's when I knew, if I stayed in that house one more night, I might end up like Tyler. I waited until after midnight. Mom had gone to bed after taking her sleeping pills, and Dad was still in the garage. I could hear the low metallic rhythm of tools clinking against something. He'd been working late, every night that week. I stuffed my phone, wallet, and the camera into my backpack, climbed out my window, and dropped quietly into the damp grass below. The air smelled like rain and gasoline. My plan was simple: get to Aunt Michelle's 2 miles away, show her the video, call the police from there. But halfway down the street, headlights flashed behind me. I froze, turning just enough to see the outline of our silver Civic crawling along the curb. My dad's silhouette behind the wheel. Panic kicked in. I cut across the neighbor's lawn, vaulted their fence, and tore through the backyards, grass slick under my sneakers. The engine revved somewhere behind me. I could hear tires on gravel. He was following me. I ducked behind a shed, heart pounding so loud it felt like it would give me away. The car slowed, idled, then shut off. The silence was worse than the noise. Then a voice, his voice calm, steady, too close. "Leah, you shouldn't run from family. You'll just make things worse." I covered my mouth to keep from crying out. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Mom," I answered, whispering. "He's out here. He's following me." There was a pause, then her slurred voice. "Leah, honey, your dad said you've been acting strange. Please come home. You're scaring me." That's when I realized she wasn't going to help me. She was still on his side. Maybe she knew. The beam of a flashlight swept across the yard, stopping inches from my face. I bolted, sprinting toward the woods behind the neighborhood, branches slapping my arms. My lungs burned, my legs shook, but I didn't stop running until I saw the glow of the gas station at the highway edge. I burst through the doors, dripping sweat and shaking, yelling for the clerk to call 911. He blinked at me, confused, until I said the words out loud for the first time. "My dad killed my brother." The clerk's eyes went wide, but he picked up the phone without another question. Within 10 minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up, red and blue lights painting the rain-slick windows. The officers took me outside, asked me to repeat everything slowly this time. It sounded insane coming out of my mouth: the videos, the USB drive, the dented car, my dad chasing me through the neighborhood. But when I showed them the bruises on my arm from when he grabbed me earlier that week, their faces changed. They called for a detective and drove me to the station instead of home. At the station, a woman named Detective Harlow gave me a blanket and hot chocolate from a vending machine that tasted like burnt marshmallows. She listened to everything, taking notes without interrupting. When I mentioned the missing USB, she nodded. "If he took it, we'll find it. But you need to understand, Leah, accusing a parent of murder is serious. You'll have to back this up." "I can," I said. "There's still Tyler's camera." Her eyebrows lifted. "You have it?" I pulled it out of my backpack and handed it over. She plugged it into her laptop right there at the table. The video started playing, and for the first time, I wasn't the only one hearing it. When Tyler said it's Dad, Detective Harlow froze. When Dad's voice came through, "Give me the drive, Tyler," she whispered. "Jesus Christ." She left the room for almost 20 minutes. When she came back, she said a patrol car was already on the way to my house with a search warrant. But what she said next made my stomach drop. "Your mom isn't answering her phone. And your father's car is gone. They sent an alert to every unit in the county." Detective Harlow kept me in her office, trying to act calm, but I could see it on her face she was worried. At 3:24 a.m., another officer walked in and handed her a note. She read it, looked at me, then knelt down so our eyes were level. "They found your dad's car," she said softly. "Empty. Parked at the old quarry off Route 17. I knew that place. It was where he used to take us fishing when I was little, the same place Tyler filmed one of his last videos." And suddenly I realized, he wasn't running. He was finishing something. The quarry looked different at night, a giant hollow pit swallowed by fog. Police lights reflected off the water like veins of blue lightning. Detective Harlow's car crunched over the gravel as we pulled up behind a row of cruisers. An officer tried to stop her from bringing me along, but she said, "She's the only one he might talk to." The second I stepped out, the air hit me cold, sharp, smelling like metal and rain. Someone shouted from the cliff edge, "He's down there!" Dad stood maybe 30 feet away, silhouetted by his own car's headlights, right at the lip of the quarry. His shirt was soaked through, his hair plastered to his forehead. In his right hand, he held something small, the USB. "Leah," he called out, voice echoing off the rock walls. "I just wanted to protect you." Detective Harlow motioned for the officers to hold back. She whispered, "Stay where I can see you. Talk if you can." I stepped forward, my shoes sliding on the wet gravel. "Protect me from what, Dad?" He laughed short, bitter. "From your brother's stupidity." He didn't understand what he found. He thought he was doing the right thing. What did he find? "Money," he said flatly. "Real money. Your mom's debt's my job. I made one deal, just one, to fix everything. And Tyler recorded it." "You killed him to keep it secret?" My voice cracked. He shook his head violently. "It was supposed to scare him. I just wanted him to stop." But he fought back. "I didn't mean for it to happen like that." The USB slipped from his hand, bounced once, and disappeared into the dark water below. "Dad, please. Just come down," I said, stepping closer. "We can fix this. You can still." He cut me off. "No, sweetheart. You can't fix what's already broken." Then he looked right at me, calm, almost peaceful, and took a step backward. The splash was louder than I expected. Officers shouted. Flashlights darted across the surface, but the water just rippled, then stilled. Detective Harlow pulled me back, but I couldn't stop staring into the darkness. Somewhere deep in that quarry, my father had just buried the last piece of proof. Or so I thought. They never found his body. Divers searched the quarry for 3 days straight, pulling up bits of debris, a tire, an old shopping cart, but no trace of him. They said the water was too deep, too murky, and the bottom too unstable to search safely any farther. Officially, they ruled him presumed dead. But part of me never believed that. Because my father was a man who planned everything down to the second. He wouldn't have left things to chance, not even his own death. After the quarry, the investigation turned ugly. Reporters camped outside our house for a week, shouting questions through the gate. Mom gave one TV interview, crying on cue and talking about my husband's mental health struggles. She never mentioned the money, the videos, or the fact that the police had opened a homicide inquiry. She was playing the grieving widow role to perfection. Detective Harlow didn't buy it. She told me quietly that my mom's phone record showed several late-night calls to an unlisted number in the weeks before Tyler's death, same burner phone my dad used for his deal. The working theory became that they were both in on it, that the two of them had been hiding financial trouble for years and Tyler stumbled onto it. When the police searched the house again, they found a hidden drawer in Dad's desk. Inside, 2 passports, a stack of cash, and a ferry ticket dated the same night as the quarry incident. The ticket wasn't punched. It meant he'd planned to run, not drown. That's when the nightmares started. Every night I'd see him standing in my doorway dripping wet, his voice calm and low. "You weren't supposed to find it." I'd wake up with my heart trying to claw its way out of my chest. Therapy helped a little, but the fear stayed, like a weight sitting right behind my ribs. One afternoon about a month later, I came home from school to find a padded envelope on the porch. No return address. My name printed neatly across the front. Inside was a flash drive. No note. Just the drive. It took me an hour to work up the courage to plug it in. The folder held one file. To Leah. I almost didn't click it. But of course I did. The screen filled with grainy video footage, night vision, time-stamped the evening after the quarry incident. The camera was shaking, like someone was filming from a hidden spot across the road. A figure stepped into frame, my father. Alive. Breathing. Standing beside a black van. He opened the door, handed a duffel bag to someone inside, then looked directly toward the camera. "Tell her I'm sorry," he said. "But I had to disappear." Then the screen went dark. For a minute I couldn't move. My hands went numb. He was alive. He'd faked his death. I ran straight to the police station, showed the video to Detective Harlow. She studied it frame by frame, her face pale. "This wasn't filmed on a phone," she said quietly. "It's security footage. Someone wanted you to see it. They traced the flash drive back to a drop box at a post office 2 towns over. The package had been paid for in cash, mailed 2 days earlier. No fingerprints, no traceable origin. That night, I stayed at a motel under police protection. Around 2 a.m., the motel phone rang. Not my cell, the room phone. I answered, thinking it was Harlow checking in. Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard since the quarry. "You're safe now, Leah," my dad said. "Don't look for me again." My hand shook so hard the receiver slipped. I whispered, "Why did you kill him? Tyler didn't deserve." He cut me off. "You were never supposed to find the drive. None of this was supposed to touch you. Tell your mother she's free now." Then the line went dead. I just sat there in the dark, the motel lamp buzzing, listening to the dial tone echo in my ear. The next morning, Detective Harlow found a fresh voicemail on her office phone. It was a distorted male voice, but she said it sounded like him. It said, "You're chasing a ghost. Let her live her life." Police traced it to a payphone near the docks. By the time they got there, whoever made the call was gone. The payphone receiver was still swinging. 2 weeks later, I got another envelope. Inside, a single photograph. It was me and Tyler, maybe 10 and 15 years old, laughing on the pier while Dad stood in the background. On the back of the photo, written in blue pen, "Keep him alive by telling the truth." I stared at that note until the ink smudged from my tears. I didn't know if it was guilt, or a threat, or both. That's when I made my choice. If Dad wanted to vanish, I'd make sure he couldn't hide in silence. I went public. Gave an interview. Told the world everything, the videos, the threats, the flash drive. It went viral within hours. People argued online about whether I was a traumatized kid or a genius liar. But once the story broke, tips started flooding in. Sightings. Rumors. One from a mechanic in Maine who swore a man matching Dad's description had paid cash for repairs on a black van. Every new lead was a jolt of hope and fear tangled together. Because if he was alive, he was still out there. Watching. Waiting. And every night I slept with the photo of me and Tyler under my pillow. Just in case he ever decided to come home. 6 months after the interview, everything about my life had changed. New school, new name, new city. Witness protection, technically, though they called it relocation for safety. Detective Harlow said it was a precaution, just until they confirmed my father was truly gone. I tried to believe her. But some nights I'd wake up convinced someone was standing outside my window, watching. Mom refused protection. She stayed behind, insisting the worst was over. She said she wanted to move on, but I think she just didn't want to live under the same roof as her guilt. We spoke on the phone sometimes, her voice small and worn out, like it belonged to someone twice her age. She still claimed she knew nothing about the money or the deal. I never told her about the phone call at the motel. I couldn't bear to hear her say she didn't believe me again. Therapy helped a little. I learned words like trauma bonding and survivor guilt. I learned to breathe through panic, to ground myself when memories hit. But no matter how much progress I made, there was one truth I couldn't escape: Tyler's death wasn't just something that happened to me. It was something that shaped me. It burned every part of my old life to ash and left me standing in what was left. Then one morning, I woke to find a package slipped under my apartment door. No return address, no postmark. I didn't even hear it arrive. Inside was a single object, Dad's old wristwatch. The one he used to wear every day until the night Tyler died. The hands were frozen at 2:07 a.m. I nearly dropped it. That was the exact minute of Tyler's crash. There was no note this time. Just the watch. But something about it was wrong. The second hand was missing, the back plate slightly pried open. When I looked closer, I saw a folded slip of paper wedged inside the casing. It read, "He wasn't the only one who knew." My first thought was that it had to be a trick, some leftover remnant from before. But when Detective Harlow came to examine it, she found tiny fingerprints on the inside of the watch. Fresh ones. Too fresh for something supposedly sitting in storage for months. Lab results came back 2 weeks later. They weren't my dad's. They weren't mine. They belonged to someone named Raymond Holt. A name that didn't exist anywhere in the federal database before a year ago. A fake identity. Harlow's face went pale when she read the report. "That's an alias," she said quietly. "He's still out there. He's just changed his name." The investigation reopened overnight. News outlets picked it up again, this time calling him the ghost on Route 17. People were obsessed with the mystery: the missing father, the murdered son, the daughter who wouldn't let it die. But behind all the media noise, there was something else happening: quiet deposits into my college fund from anonymous sources. Always round numbers, always untraceable. I didn't have to ask who it was. One evening, Harlow came by my apartment with a folder. Inside was a single photo printed from a Border Patrol camera. It showed a man at a gas station in Nova Scotia, filling a black van. Half his face hidden by a baseball cap, but I knew that jawline. That posture. The caption said it was taken 4 days earlier. "He's alive," I whispered. Harlow nodded. "And if the tip's right, he's heading north. He won't stop until someone makes him." We sat there in silence for a long time. Finally, she said something that stuck with me. "Sometimes justice doesn't come from a courtroom, Leah. Sometimes it's just knowing the truth and surviving it." That night, I took out Tyler's photo from my drawer, the one Dad had mailed, the one that said keep him alive by telling the truth. I finally understood. It wasn't a threat. It was a command. Tyler didn't die for nothing if I kept the story alive. If I made sure people knew what he found, what it cost him. So I started writing everything. The recordings, the investigation, every moment of fear and doubt and guilt. I sent it to a journalist who'd covered our case from the beginning. 2 months later, it became a podcast called The Heartline Conspiracy. It exploded overnight. Millions listened. Every new listener was one more light on Tyler's name, one more reason Dad could never crawl fully back into the dark. Then, about a year after it launched, I got an email. No subject line. No signature. Just 6 words. "You told the truth. That's enough." I sat staring at the screen for a long time, unsure whether to feel closure or terror. Because that message could only come from one person. The police traced the IP address to a remote fishing town on the Canadian coast, but by the time they arrived, the account was deleted. The cabin it pinged from was empty. On the kitchen counter, there was an envelope addressed to me. Inside was the missing second hand from Dad's watch and a photo of the ocean at sunrise. On the back, in handwriting I knew by heart. "For Tyler. For you. Keep going." I still don't know if he meant it as an apology or a goodbye. Maybe both. Now, when I walk to class, sometimes I swear I see a silver Civic in traffic, a flash of chrome, a reflection in glass, and for half a heartbeat, I expect him to step out. But he never does. Maybe that's the point. Maybe he wants me to wonder. So I do what Tyler asked. I keep him alive by telling the truth. Every time I speak his name, every time someone hears our story, a little bit of the darkness burns away. And somewhere out there, wherever he's hiding, I hope Dad hears it too. Because I want him to know, I'm not scared anymore. I survived him. And that's the ending he'll never escape.